Is it a tattoo, a microchip, a barcode? What? This is the question many wonder about when it comes to the mark of the beast. The problem is all of these are physical marks, but we're at war with a spiritual enemy. And that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, let's get into it. The short of it is that the true mark of the beast is a spiritual mark. Now, here's the long answer. The best way to look at this is to go back to the beginning. So listen to this. This is Yahuwah's command to Adam. This is Genesis 2, verses 1 to 17. Emphasis on 9 and 16 and 17. But it reads, "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day Yahuwah ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Yahuwah blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Yahuwah created and made. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created, in the day that Yahuwah made the earth and the heavens. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For Yahuwah had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And Yahuwah formed the man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living soul. And Yahuwah planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made Yahuwah to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into four heads. The name of the first is Pishon. That is it which compasses the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that is good. There is Bedlam and onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasses the whole land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Hatakal. Apologies for the mispronunciations. That it is which goes toward the east ashore, and the fourth river is Parath, or we call it Euphrates. And Yahuwah took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to guard it. And Yahuwah commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it. For in the day that you eat thereof you shall surely die." So before I get to verse 17, where Yahuwah's like, yo, if you eat of this, you're going to die, I'm going to go back up to verse 9. "And out of the ground made Yahuwah to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil." So I was reading this the other day, and this is the first time this ever popped out to me, because, and when I read it in just a second, you'll see this as well, but when Huah looked at the tree of knowledge of good and evil, she thought that it was pleasant for sight and good for food. And so I was always under the impression that this tree looked better. Well, that tree looked better than all the other trees. And that's the reason why she was like, yeah, I want to eat this. But as you can see in chapter 2, verse 9, all the trees were equally as pleasant to the eyes, and they were all good for food. So it really emphasizes the act of disobedience that took place with Adam and Huah in the garden, because Yahuwah did not tempt them by making the tree that they weren't supposed to touch look more beautiful than all the rest of them, or look more pleasant than all the rest of them. All right. So if you skip on over to Genesis chapter 3, you're going to see Hasatan's lie. Okay. So verse 17 of chapter 2, Yahuwah tells Adam, like, the day that you eat of this tree, you shall surely die. Okay? Remember that. You shall surely die. I'm going to start in verse 1 of chapter 3. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahuwah had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, has Yahuwah said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Yahuwah has said, You shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said unto the woman, You shall not surely die. I'm going to keep going. Verse 5. For Yahuwah knows that in the day that you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil. So did you see the subtlety of the serpent? As a matter of fact, the first verse says, Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast. Did you see the subtle lie that was told? So Yahuwah said, in the day that you eat or touch it, you shall die. Hasatan, or the serpent, said, You shall not surely die. One word was added. And when I was writing my notes down when it came to this, I was thinking about how in Revelation chapter 22, listen to what it says real quick. And this is just a little sidebar, but starting in verse 18, Revelation 22, For I testify unto every man that hears the word of the prophecy of this book, if any man shall add unto these things, Yahuwah shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. And if any man shall take away from the words of this book, of the book of this prophecy, Yahuwah shall take away his part out of the book of life and out of the holy city and from the things that are written in this sefer or in this book. So that's the first thing I thought about. You know, Yahuwah has always taken it very serious for us to not put into or take out of his word. His word is his word. Say it exactly or don't say it at all. You know what I'm saying? Put some respect on his name, basically. Anyway, just want to point that out. So yeah, he added one word and it made it a whole complete lie. Now, as the account goes, we know that Adam and Hawa didn't physically die, but they were kicked out of the garden, where they later went on to have more children, to have children. So their death was spiritual. Hopefully that's something that everybody listening to this understands. They didn't physically die, they spiritually died. They had to be kicked out of the garden because when they sinned, then Yahuwah had to, slay an animal, cover them with clothing, and to prevent them from being eternal in their sin, he had to kick them out of the garden so that they didn't have a chance to eat of the tree of life. So yeah, everything that Yahuwah does is spiritual because he is spirit. So again, referring to John or Yehukanan 4 verses 23 to 24, but the hour comes and now is when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in Ruach and in truth, for the Father seeks such to worship him. Yahuwah is that Ruach, and they that worship him must worship him in Ruach and in truth. So the reason why we have to worship him in spirit and in truth is because he is spirit. Everything he does is spiritual. He exists in the spirit realm. He is, the physical realm is kind of like an echo of the spiritual realm. Something happens in the spiritual realm, and then it echoes into the physical realm. So in our physical state, we are living in a spiritual echo, if that makes any sense. At least that's how I look at prophecy. But anyway, moving on. The problem with carnal man is there is an inability to see things spiritually, or to see spiritual things. With that being said, I am going to read Deuteronomy 6 verses 4 to 9. This is the Shama. But listen, Hear, O Yasharal, Yahuwah your Eluah, Yahuwah is one, and you shall love Yahuwah your Eluah with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. The emphasis here is on verse 8, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Okay? So when Yahuwah's word is in your heart, you'll meditate on him, because Yahusha is the word of Yahuwah. So when Yahuwah's word is in your heart, you'll meditate on him day and night, or basically you'll think about him all the time, day and night, and you'll do what he says. Remember how he says, if you love me, you'll keep my commands. So you'll think about Yahusha all the time, and you'll do what Yahusha says. You'll be obedient. Okay? So that sign upon the hand is you doing the works of Yahuwah. The frontlet between the eyes, that's you meditating on the word day and night. You can actually go to Joshua 1 and 8 for that script. This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth, but you shall meditate therein day and night, that you may guard to do according to all that is written therein. For then you shall make your way prosperous, and then you shall have good success. So I think about it like a relationship where you can't get enough of being in their presence, and you'll go above and beyond to make them happy, and you just think about them all the time. That's basically what's going on here. And it's a sign of you being in covenant with Yahuwah, because you can't get to Yahuwah without going through his son Yahushua HaMashiach. So if the word of Yahuwah, which is the testimony of Yahushua HaMashiach, is in your heart, which is the Ark of the Covenant, then you will meditate on him. You'll think about him all the time, just like you would if you were in love with somebody here on this planet. And you would do what he said, because you want to make him happy, just like you would with somebody that you were in a relationship with here on this planet. Okay? So check this out. I'm going to read a couple of scripts about the seal of Yahuwah. By now, you should know my disclaimer. I'm going to read just one or two verses out of each one of these, but go back and you yourself actually read the entire chapter so you can get a better context of what's going on. But for time's sake, I'm just going to read one verse out of each chapter that's relevant to what I'm talking about. So this is John 6 and 27. Labor not for the food, which is this John? I had to make sure I was in the right book. Okay. Labor not for the food which perishes, but for that food which endures unto everlasting life, which the Son of Adam shall give unto you. For him has Yahuwah the Father sealed. The next is 2 Timothy 2, verse 19. Nevertheless, the foundation of Yahuwah stands sure, having his seal. Yahuwah knows them that are his, and let everyone that names the name of Mashiach depart from iniquity. Revelation 7 and 3 says, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our Eluah in their foreheads. Revelation 9 and 4 says, and it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men who have not the seal of Yahuwah in their foreheads. All right. And lastly, this is Revelation 14, verse 1. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. Now, here's the thing with this. I was in Ezekiel the other day, and I've never seen this before. It was Ezekiel 9, verse 4, but I'm going to read verses 1 to 4. But it actually talks about this seal. And when I looked up okay, let me just read it real quick. Just let me read it. So this is what Ezekiel 9, 1 to 4 says. He cried also in my ears with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lies toward the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar, and the glory of the Eluah of Yasharah was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was, to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And Yahuwah said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a tau, or a ta, upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. The reason why that stood out is because, one, again, here's another example of me reading Ezekiel several times and never really even paid attention to that, and it just jumped out the other day. So when you look at the Paleo Hebrew word letter, it is the tau or the tav in modern Hebrew, and these are the functions of that letter. It's a mark, a sign, a cross, a covenant, a promise, a signal, a monument, evidence, or a signature. Okay, it's a signature. So there was someone that was told that had an inkhorn to go and write, then put the tau, or the, I know I'm saying this wrong, the tha or the tav on the foreheads of certain people, right? And then going back to Revelation 14:1, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. Remember, I said one of the functions of the tha or the tav is a signature, or it's a mark, or it's a sign. And it's in their foreheads, right? I'm going somewhere with this. Stay with me. So the sign that you're in covenant with Yahuwah is the testimony of Yahushua HaMashiach being in your heart. You think about him and his commandments day and night, and you do what he says. So I keep talking about the Ark of the Covenant being our heart. I do have an episode, an episode where I actually talk about this in more detail. It's episode 51 called The Ark of the Covenant and the Testimony. So please, by all means, go back and listen to that episode so you know why I keep talking about our heart being the Ark of the Covenant. So the fallen angels actually pervert the concept of the things of Yahuwah. Before I go further, I do want to read to you guys the etymology of the word pervert, because it was very interesting. So in the late 14th century, it meant to turn someone aside from a right religious belief to a false or erroneous one, to distort natural order, misdirect, misapply, to turn something or someone from right opinion or conduct. In the 12th century, it meant to undo, destroy, overthrow, overturn, to corrupt, subvert, abuse, turn the wrong way, etc. Now, when you go and you look this up for yourself, you will see other details added in there. I didn't feel like adding all that stuff in because it was this big long paragraph. I just took out the portions of it that were necessary and relevant. But by all means, look up the etymology of the word pervert. So to turn someone aside from a right religious belief to a false, erroneous one, to distort natural order, misdirect, misapply, to turn something or someone from right opinion or conduct, to undo, destroy, overthrow, overturn, to corrupt, subvert, abuse, turn the wrong way. This is what the fallen angels do to the concept of the things of Yahuwah in our minds. So now let's talk about how the serpent has done this with the sign of Yahuwah's covenant, because that's exactly what the serpent did in the garden with Adam and Hawa. Revelation 13:18-11. Apologies, I said that completely backwards. 11-18 is where it mentions the mark of the beast. And it reads as follows: And behold, and I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon, and he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he does great wonders, so that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceives them that dwell in the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. It's three things that I just want to point out. Mark, name, number of his name. So, and the people that had the mark, the name, or the number of his name, they worship the beast, right? It shows intimacy with the beast. They had the mark of the beast. They knew the name of the beast. They knew the number of his name, right? It's an intimacy with the beast. So this is just not some casual thing that's going on, right? And it makes me think of when Yahushua was talking to the ones that came to him in Matthew 7:23, and he was like, away from me, I never knew you, you who practice lawlessness, or you workers of iniquity, depending on the translation of the Bible that you're reading. But that practice or working, and that practice of lawlessness or working iniquity is something that's habitual. It's not something that you just wake up and it happens and then you never do it again, or you don't do it often. This is a habitual, deliberate thing that's being done. And when you are habitually and deliberately doing the things that the beast system tells you to do, you have a form of intimacy with them. And even if you go back up to verse 4 in chapter 13, and they worshiped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? When you worship something, it's way more deep than you just acknowledging something. Or worship, that is an intimacy. And I just want to read Revelation 19:20. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone. So when you're intimate with the beast system, and you don't repent, and you don't come into a covenant with Yahuwah through Yahushua HaMashiach, then you will be with the beast system when the beast system is cast into the lake of fire. All right. But I want you to also pay close attention to the location of the mark, though. So verse 16 tells you the location of the mark. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now, this is very significant. I have a couple of verses I'm going to read. We're going to start with the right hand first, right? So this is Romans 8:34. Who is he who condemns? It is Yahushua HaMashiach that died, yea, rather, that is risen again, who is even at the right hand of Yahuwah, who also makes intercession for us. This is Hebrews 1:3-4. Who being the brightness of his glory and the express image of his person, and upholding all things by the word of his power, when he had by himself purged our sins, sat down on the right hand of the majesty on high, being made so much better than the angels, as he has by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. All right, now this is Hebrews 12:1-2. Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Yahushua, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising, or the execution stake, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of Yahuwah. Hopefully you start to see a pattern. Now this is Acts 7:55-56. But he, being full of the Ruach HaKodesh, looked up steadfastly into heaven and saw the glory of Yahuwah, and Yahusha standing on the right hand of Yahuwah, and said, Behold, I see the heavens opened, and the Son of Adam standing on the right hand of Yahuwah. This is 1 Peter 3:22. Who is gone into heaven and is on the right hand of Yahuwah, angels and authorities and powers being made subject unto him. Now, all this is talking about Yahusha, obviously. So now I want to take you into Yashayahu, Isaiah 41, verse 10. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your Eluah. I will strengthen you. Yea, I will help you. Yea, I will uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness. The right hand of my righteousness. That's Yahusha. I will uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness. That's Yahusha. Yahusha is the right hand of Yahuwah. Now, I'm going to show you why the right hand is significant and why it wasn't a coincidence that that is where the mark of the beast will be for those that are not in covenant with Yahuwah. All right. So if you go into the book of Leviticus chapter 8, I'm going to read 22 to 24, but Aaron and his sons are being consecrated and cleansed and so on and so forth. And this is one of the things that Moshe was instructed by Yahuwah to do unto them for this to take place before they can start functioning as high priests and the other Levitical priests inside of the tabernacle of assembly. The tabernacle of the assembly. Why does that sound wrong in my head? Anyway, verse 22 says, And he brought the other ram, the ram of consecration, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands upon the head of the ram, and he slew it. And Moshe took of the blood of it and put it upon the tip of Aaron's right ear, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot. And he brought Aaron's sons, and Moshe put of the blood upon the tip of the right ear, and upon the thumbs of their right hand, and upon the great toes of their right feet. And Moshe sprinkled the blood upon the altar round about. So the first verse that I read was verse 22, and it's telling you that this is something that's going on for the consecration of Aaron and his sons, who are the Levitical priests of that time, right? So the right hand having the blood upon it in the right ear and all that is a sign of consecration and purification. If you jump on over to Leviticus 14, verses 1 to 18, you'll see the cleansing of a leper take place, right? So this is going along with the blood on the right hand and the right ear and the big toe and all that being a sign of purification and consecration. All right. And I apologize. I'm probably going to stumble over some words only because my mouth is a little bit dry, but I'm going to keep going. All right. And Yahuwah spoke unto Moshe, saying, This shall be the law of the leper in the day of his cleansing, purification, remember? He shall be brought unto the priest, and the priest shall go forth out of the camp, and the priest shall look, and behold, if the plague of leprosy be healed in the leper, then shall the priest command to take for him that is to be cleansed 2 birds alive and clean, cedar wood and scarlet and hyssop. And the priest shall command that one of the birds be killed in an earthen vessel over running water. As for the living bird, he shall take it in the cedar wood and the scarlet and the hyssop, and shall dip them and the living bird in the blood of the bird that was killed over the running water. And he shall sprinkle upon him that is to be cleansed from the leprosy 7 times, and shall pronounce him clean, and shall let the living bird loose into the open field. And he that is to be cleansed shall wash his clothes and shave off all his hair, and wash himself in water, that he may be clean. And after that he shall come into the camp, and shall tarry abroad out of his tent 7 days. But it shall be on the 7th day that he shall shave off all his hair off his head, and his beard, and his eyebrows, even all his hair he shall shave off, and he shall wash his clothes also. He shall wash his flesh in water, and he shall be clean. And on the 8th day he shall take 2 lambs without blemish, and 1 ewe lamb of the first year without blemish, and 3/10 deals of fine flour for an oblation, mingled with oil, and 1 log of oil. And the priest that makes him clean shall present the man that is to be made clean and those things before Yahuwah at the door of the tabernacle of the assembly. And the priest shall take one he lamb and offer him for a trespass offering, and the log of oil, and wave them for a wave offering before Yahuwah. And he shall slay the lamb in the place where he shall kill the sin offering and the ascending smoke offering in the holy place. For as the sin offering is the priest, so is the trespass offering. It is most holy. And the priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering, and the priest shall put it upon the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot. And the priest shall take some of the log of oil, and pour it into the palm of his own left hand. And the priest shall dip his right finger in the oil that is in the left hand, and shall sprinkle of the oil with his finger 7 times for Yahuwah. And of the rest of the oil that is in his hand shall the priest put upon the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of him that is of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot, and upon the blood of the trespass offering. And the remnant of the oil that is in the priest's hand he shall pour upon the head of him that is to be cleansed, and the priest shall make an atonement for him before Yahuwah. That was a lot, but that was the cleansing and the purification of the leper. Leprosy, the way Yahuwah gave it to me was, and y'all willing, I'll make an episode about leprosy as well, but leprosy, the way Yahuwah gave it to me, is sin. He likens it to sin. There's many different types of leprosy, but the whole gist of it is, and Leviticus 13 and 14 are the 2 chapters that you're going to want to read when it comes to the Torah, the law of the lepers, and even the house that has leprosy within the walls. There's the leprosy that, you observe it after a while, and if it seems to be healing, then you consider that person clean. But if it doesn't seem to be healing, then after 2 cycles of 7 days, after 14 days, it seems to continue to be growing, then you cast them out and you mark them unclean, right? So that's why here in Leviticus 14, we're reading about the cleansing of the leper. So this is somebody that went through 2 cycles, 2 7-day processes, and they were deemed cleaned. And this is what Aaron and his sons had to do. But notice how Aaron and his sons had to put the blood on the now pronounced clean leper, the person that is now pronounced without sin in Yahuwah's eyes, right? They put the blood and the oil on the same places that Aaron and his sons had the blood and the oil put on them by Moshe. The exact same places. And the fact that it was blood and oil. So the blood is the cleansing, and it signifies Yahusha's blood cleansing us of our sin. And the oil is purification. That signifies Ruach HaKodesh coming in and helping us to do what Yahuwah says, which purifies us from the inside out. Right? Hallelujah. Praise Yah. So the mark of the beast being on the right hand is a sign of perversion and mockery, if you will. It's a sign that you have not come into covenant with Yahuwah through his son, Yahushua HaMashiach. You've not accepted the blood, nor do you have Ruach HaKodesh dwelling within you. So that is the mark of the beast. Any and every one that does not have the the signature of Yahuwah in their forehead, that has not been sealed by Yahuwah through a covenant to him through Yahushua HaMashiach and having his spirit indwelling within them. Someone who's not abiding, if you will, in Yahushua HaMashiach, and Yahushua HaMashiach is not abiding in them. That's the significance of the right hand, of the mark of the beast being on the right hand. Now, when it comes to the forehead, it's kind of self-explanatory, but I'm still going to read it anyway. I already read Joshua 1 and 8 that talks about meditating on the word day and night. So I'm just going to jump into the other scripts when it comes to this. Here's one that everybody knows. Romans 12 and 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be you transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Yahuwah. So if your mind isn't renewed, or reverse that, if you haven't been cleansed and purified by Yahushua and Ruach HaKodesh, then your mind is not being renewed. So you have the mind of carnal man. Ephesians 4:23 says, and be renewed in the ruach of your mind. And that's literally a command, y'all. This is Colossians 3:2-10. Actually, I'm going to start at verse 1. If you then, being risen with Mashiach, seek those things which are above, where Mashiach sits on the right hand of Yahuwah, here's the right hand again, set your affection on things above and not on things on earth. For you are dead, and your life is hidden with Mashiach in Yahuwah. When Mashiach, who is our life, shall appear, then shall you also appear with him in glory. Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil lusting, and covetousness with idolatry, which is idolatry, for which things' sake the wrath of Yahuwah comes on the children of disobedience. The wrath of Yahuwah comes on the children of disobedience, the mark of the beast, in the which you also walked sometime when you lived in them. But now you also put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Lie not one to another, seeing that you have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him. So you're no longer doing what the world tells you to do. You're doing what Yahushua told you to do. That's why I said with his deeds 3 times. Just throwing it out there. All right. So this is Isaiah 26:3. You will guard him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. So Yahuwah is literally telling us that our minds need to be on Yahushua day and night. Meditate on the word day and night. You'll be in peace if your mind is stayed on him, is what he's saying. So if all you're doing is thinking about him all the time, which is part of the covenant, right? That's one of the signs of the covenant. Your mind is always on him. His name, his signature is on your forehead, right? Because he has sealed you through the covenant that you came to him with through Yahusha, and now have his Ruach dwelling within you. So here is the admonition from Yahuwah. Romans 8:5-9. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Ruach, the things of the Ruach. For to the carnally minded is death, but to the spiritually minded is life and peace, because the carnal mind is enmity against Yahuwah, for it is not subject to the law of Yahuwah, neither indeed can be. So the carnal minded person cannot obey Yahuwah. You need his Ruach. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please Yahuwah. So you can't even please Yahuwah. But you are not in the flesh, but in the Ruach, if so be that the Ruach Yahuwah dwell in you. Now if any man has not the Ruach Mashiach, he is not his. All right. And the last place I'm going to take you is 2 Corinthians 4, verses 3-4. But if our Besorah be hidden, it is hidden to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world has blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious Besorah of Mashiach, who is the image of Yahuwah, should shine unto them. So prayerfully, what you're seeing now is the significance of not taking the true mark, which is obedience and allegiance to Babylon, the beast system, and coming into a right relationship with Yahuwah through his son, Yahushua HaMashiach, and being filled with his Ruach HaKodash. So just like in the garden, now this is pure speculation on what I believe based off of what I've read. So I'm going to throw that little disclaimer out there so y'all understand this is what I believe, is not what Yahuwah said. Y'all ain't finna get me in trouble. But I believe that there will be a physical mark. I don't know what it's going to be. Don't really care, because that's just how the enemy operates. The enemy needs to deceive people so that people will willingly take this mark, not knowing that whether you take the physical mark or not, if you have not come into covenant with Yahuwah via having the blood of his son, or accepting the blood of his son for the remission of your sins, and you being cleansed. So now you're receiving his righteousness by you being cleansed and then purified by receiving his Ruach HaKodesh. If you haven't come in, and then you have his signature on your forehead. If you haven't come into covenant with Yahuwah, you have automatically accepted the mark of the beast. That's it. That's all. And I like the way Romans 8 put it, because it was very plain. I want to say it was in verse 5 of Romans chapter 8. Or nope, it was verse 9. But you are not in the flesh, but in the Ruach. If so be that the Ruach Yahuwah dwell in you. Now, if any man has not the Ruach Mashiach, he is not his. You don't have his Ruach dwelling in you, which means that you did not come into the sheepfold through the door, which is Yahusha. You don't have his Ruach dwelling within you. You're not Yahuwah's. You do not have his name written on your forehead. You are not in covenant with him. You have the mark of the beast. That is who you will be with for eternity. That's the true mark. That's the spiritual mark. Your right hand, which is supposed to be purified and cleansed, has not been purified and cleansed. So the mark is on your right hand, and you're not thinking about Yahuwah. You're always thinking about the things of the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. That's what's on your mind all the time. So now you're meditating on the things of the world, so you do what the world says. And there's no testimony of Yahushua in your heart. So your heart already has formulated this sin in there, and now you're thinking on it, now you're doing it. That's the mark. All right. I'm going to end it right there. If you'd like to get in contact with me, you can contact me at replenishme@gmail.com, RIPLENISH me@gmail.com. Much ahaba and shalom to you all.